This is definitely the top hit of July. Fans of cute male characters shouldn't miss it. The protagonist, Tokiyuki Hojo, is a young lord of the Kamakura shogunate. Inept at both literary and martial arts, his only skill is escaping from his servants. While his elder half-brother practices swordsmanship, he runs away. Even as the shogunate's general Ashikaga prepares to march, he is still fleeing. Despite evading many, he is eventually caught by Ashikaga. Ashikaga looks at him fondly, telling him he is about to campaign in Kyoto to suppress the turmoil caused by Go-Daigo and others. Tokiyuki is chosen as his future lord, hoping he will witness his loyalty to the Hojo clan. Tokiyuki relies heavily on the general. After Ashikaga leaves, Tokiyuki's childhood friend Kyoko approaches, reminding him there's no need to fear Ashikaga, as he is the heir to the shogunate and Ashikaga's future master. She, his future wife, then attempts to kiss him forcefully. Just then, the two servants catch up, and Tokiyuki quickly flees. Kyoko's father, disappointed, thinks Tokiyuki won't amount to much, likely to be just a puppet like his father. Kyoko doesn't mind, as long as she enjoys wealth and status, and marrying the gentle and handsome Tokiyuki is no loss. The servants can't find Tokiyuki anywhere, who is sitting on the rooftop watching them leave, unconcerned about being called incompetent. His elder brother brings him some buns, none in their family wanting to be the lord. Their father is sickly and lacks ambition, and although his brother is a legitimate son, he has no desire for power. As the true heir, Tokiyuki can't avoid responsibilities and spends his days playing hide-and-seek with his servants. This time, the servants smartly flank him. Tokiyuki hands his puppy to his brother and leaps down, jumping to an opposite roof. The clumsy servants dare not follow, and Tokiyuki swings from the eaves, jumps through an open window, dashes through the women's courtyard, and joyously runs out to the street, his face unable to hide his joy of freedom. People on the street aren't surprised, smiling as he runs away again. Finally, Tokiyuki reaches the outskirts, climbing a tree overlooking Kamakura. He loves this land and the peaceful lives of its people, desiring no honor or status, just to live in this town. Even as a puppet, laziness or cowardice doesn't bother him. Suddenly a bell rings, and a beautiful girl appears below the tree, saying that Tokiyuki is not lazy or cowardly, but harbors a dormant monster inside, as her father said. The next moment, a large face appears behind Tokiyuki, startling him. He introduced himself as Yorishige Suwa, a priest from Shinano province. True to his role, he spoke in a manic and rambling manner. Right away, he deluged Tokiyuki with talk, claiming he was tasked with praying to the heavens to protect Kamakura from enemies, and he had just completed his prayers. He came to report to Tokiyuki's father. The girl below was his daughter, Shizuku, skilled in secret techniques and clerical work, assisting her father. Tokiyuki only wanted to know why this man knew he would climb the tree. Unexpectedly, Shizuku also spoke in a rambling manner, saying her father could foresee the future through divine power. To prove his divine power, Suwa scrutinized Tokiyuki, but became confused. Tokiyuki grew more distrustful of him. However, Suwa claimed that in 2 years, Tokiyuki would become a groundbreaking hero and lead a major battle, even altering the nation's future. Tokiyuki didn't pay attention and quietly retreated, quickly fleeing. He clearly regarded Suwa as a charlatan. Yet his sincere eyes lingered in Tokiyuki's mind, giving him a real impulse to believe in his potential as a hero. Still, Tokiyuki remained skeptical and joked about it with his brother, who thought there might be some truth in Suwa's words. Tokiyuki was different from the rest of his family. Under certain conditions, he could indeed become a hero. Accidentally, he kicked a ball too high, falling from the rooftop. The next second, that ball turned into a human head. This was outside Kyoto, where Ashikaga was fervently motivating his soldiers to annihilate the rebels. The soldiers were fired up, yet the next second, one of them had his head brutally chopped off by a comrade, as Ashikaga had never intended to quell the rebellion. He had colluded with Go-Daigo, and now, with the Kyoto shogunate forces crushed, Ashikaga's Nida army grew instantly powerful and turned to march on Kamakura. The situation reversed dramatically. The two servants who had been chasing Tokiyuki daily were killed by stray arrows. Kyoko's father committed suicide, and Kyoko herself was violated by enemies and brutally killed. The peaceful and happy Kamakura instantly turned into hell, with fires burning everywhere, destroying happiness and tranquility, leaving only sin. Amidst the flames, Ashikaga indulged in fantasies about his great endeavor. Tokiyuki's father and over 800 of his men committed ritual suicide. The only survivor was Tokiyuki. It was May 1333. The Kamakura shogunate was declared extinct. Tokiyuki watched the scene in disbelief, but then two figures appeared behind him, the father and daughter. Suwa said Tokiyuki's father had instructed him to help Tokiyuki escape before dying. Suwa would take Tokiyuki to his domain, Shinano Suwa. Tokiyuki let Suwa lead him forward. The skilled escapee no longer wanted to run, but wished to commit ritual suicide like his father. Suwa then asked him, "If you die, what will become of Japan's future?" The three came to the mountain and looked down at the hellish scene below. These were all people Tokiyuki had seen just recently. Now they were either desecrated or had become corpses. Learning that Ashikaga was responsible, Tokiyuki's first reaction was disbelief. Could the gentle Ashikaga he knew really have been fake? Even that last smile before he left? Suwa did not comfort Tokiyuki, but instead encouraged him to rally and seek revenge for everyone, promising his unwavering support. Looking at the scene before him, Tokiyuki didn't believe he had the capacity for revenge. After all, it was an army that had destroyed the entire country in just 24 days. He wished at least to die like a samurai. Suwa agreed with him and pushed Tokiyuki off the edge. Tokiyuki initially let himself fall, but at the last moment, he flipped and landed on his stomach. Suwa then intensified his efforts and shouted from above, "This is the son of Hojo." The initially confused soldiers immediately surrounded him. Fortunately, Tokiyuki, skilled in evasion, swiftly navigated through the blades and shadows, awakening a desire to survive. After distancing himself from the soldiers, he jumped into Suwa's arms and complained, "What if you had gotten me killed?" Tokiyuki verbally claimed that not dying was a disgrace, but his actions in choosing to save himself were precisely those of a hero in his heart. Suwa calmly carried on with Tokiyuki in his arms, as the arrows in the sky seemed to deliberately avoid them. Suwa praised Tokiyuki, calling him a monster with a survival instinct and a talent for living superior to anyone else. For Ashikaga, who became a hero through killing his master and seizing power, Tokiyuki would be a major problem because the next heir of the Kamakura shogunate, who was best at escaping, was a priority target. If Ashikaga became a hero through slaughter, Tokiyuki would become one through survival. They were heroes with polar opposite destinies. Of course, victory could not be achieved by running and hiding alone. So Suwa would prepare everything for Tokiyuki: allies, military power, and wisdom. All these were predicated on Tokiyuki surviving, gathering strength, and defeating the pursuing demons. Come, the battle to reclaim the world from the demon catcher begins. The three rode the same horse away from Kamakura. Tokiyuki couldn't help but ask Suwa about his motives. Suwa answered without hesitation, "It's all for the loyalty to the Hojo family." Of course, Tokiyuki didn't believe this. The real reason, Suwa said, would be revealed the day Tokiyuki reclaims the land of Uchikura. And since Tokiyuki was saved by Suwa, he demanded Suwa take responsibility. Suwa promised without hesitation to follow him to the ends of hell. As Suwa said, 2 years later, Tokiyuki would shake Japan, and his heroic career was about to begin. This character is definitely the most despicable of the July series. To surrender to the enemy, he even sold his own nephew. Not satisfied with his nephew's beheading, he wanted to capture Tokiyuki as well to secure his own luxury and wealth. On the day Ashikaga attacked Kamakura, Tokiyuki's elder brother had initially escaped. He hid cautiously, but was discovered by his uncle. Knowing his brother was also rescued, the elder brother felt relieved. However, he was spotted by a few soldiers. The uncle comforted him, saying the lower-ranking warriors wouldn't recognize them, and he just needed to distract them briefly before leaving. Tokiyuki's elder brother was initially worried for his uncle, not expecting him to betray him by pointing out his hiding spot to the soldiers. Tokiyuki was haunted by a nightmare where he heard Suwa's voice. Suwa leered at the sleeping young boy, finding him too adorable and wanting to kiss his face. Just in time, Tokiyuki woke up and leaped to the rooftop, confronting Suwa. They had agreed to go to his territory, but they had been hiding in Kamakura for days. Suwa explained that the exit was heavily guarded, and they couldn't leave. Tokiyuki knew he was telling the truth as flags were everywhere, and the warriors who had sworn loyalty to the shogunate had easily betrayed them under Ashikaga's orders. Tokiyuki recalled Ashikaga's past smiles and playfulness, sadly noting how things had changed. Shizuku comforted him, suggesting he disguise himself as a shrine attendant from a burned shrine. But Tokiyuki was concerned with a more pressing issue. He had never heard of anyone seizing power by capturing ghosts without the strength for a direct confrontation. Suwa then reassured him, claiming he had seen the moment Tokiyuki would become a hero and just needed to keep his composure. If bored, they could play Sugoroku together. Tokiyuki was speechless, seeing Suwa as unreliable, so he ran out to the ruins where he overheard two people discussing his brother's execution. Shocked and disbelieving, he almost exposed himself in a rash confrontation, but was saved by Suwa and Shizuku, who explained the situation. The two casually revealed how Tokiyuki's brother was betrayed by his own uncle, a notoriously vile warlord in Japanese history. Hearing of his brother's public execution, Tokiyuki felt nauseous. He wondered how their once joyful lives had turned so grim so quickly. Ashikaga betrayed them, the warriors betrayed them, and now even his uncle had betrayed them. Tokiyuki was left wondering who he could still trust, lying on the ground crying heartbreakingly. Unwilling to see the young Tokiyuki cry, Suwa immediately slid under him, attempting to calm him down with his holy light, asking, "Can't you just let him cry properly?" After getting up, Suwa began using his broken divine power to foresee the future, but all he saw were abstract things, like how the enemy forces were too many to handle easily. Tokiyuki, however, was more concerned about where his uncle was. Suwa turned to see Tokiyuki's determined face and extended his hand. As soon as Tokiyuki grabbed it, Suwa pulled him to run quickly, urging Tokiyuki to avenge his brother as the first step to seizing power. Meanwhile, Tokiyuki's uncle did not receive the treatment he desired and was driven away by Ashikaga, likely because he had only betrayed a concubine's son, seen as of little value. If he wanted to move forward in life, he realized he must also deliver Tokiyuki's head. His monologue was witnessed by the trio, confirming his vile nature. Suwa told Tokiyuki that one sure way to win against ghosts is to understand the opponent first. Now that they knew their enemy, they could return to strategize. But Tokiyuki still lacked confidence, having focused on fleeing rather than training in combat from a young age. Suwa didn't expect him to seek revenge alone, and introduced him to two friends, who, along with Shizuku, were playing a strange game of Sugoroku, which Tokiyuki couldn't understand. The young boy, Kojiru, clearly a samurai, and the slightly older girl, Ayako, children of a family serving the Suwa, introduced themselves to Tokiyuki. They both agreed to assist Tokiyuki in his quest against his uncle. Despite knowing that the Hojo clan had been annihilated, neither child expressed dissatisfaction. Ayako found Tokiyuki cute, and Kojiru was determined to protect their young lord. Days later, as night fell, everyone held their breath. Suwa handed a sword to Tokiyuki, and at Shizuku's signal, "Here it comes." The vile uncle charged like a demon, seeing the lone Tokiyuki under the moonlight as an enticing young boy. Tokiyuki turned to see his uncle with tears in his eyes, who only saw him as a means to wealth and glory, and started to perform, assuring Tokiyuki there was no longer anything to fear, and that he would escape with him. As he approached, Tokiyuki asked why he betrayed his brother, gripping the sword tightly. The next second, Ayako and Kojiru descended from the sky, unexpectedly blocked by the uncle's sword across his back, sending them flying. The uncle realized Tokiyuki had lured him into a trap with people ready to ambush nearby. The boy's expression was so perfect, it didn't arouse any suspicion. Unfortunately, he was appointed as his brother's guardian, not just because he was his uncle, but because he was strong enough for the role. The old brute removed his clothes, swirled his sword, and the tree behind him snapped instantly. Amidst the dust, he charged towards Tokiyuki, who had already drawn his blade but was sent flying with a single move. Kojiru and Ayako stepped in front of Tokiyuki, but to no avail. The old brute's strikes were fierce, flawless, and his strength terrifying. Kojiru and Ayako together could barely withstand him. Tokiyuki felt utter despair. After all, they were just children. Their initial surprise attack failed, and they were no match for the old brute. Amidst these thoughts, Ayako and Kojiru were both knocked back. The old brute rushed straight at Tokiyuki, proud of his betrayal of his lord's son, boasting to Tokiyuki about the day he betrayed Tokiyuki's brother. Without needing soldiers, he had brutally beaten the young boy himself, then picked up his battered nephew. Now before him was an even more tempting target, Tokiyuki. With visions of capturing the boy and claiming his reward, the old brute was determined. Tokiyuki, flushed from the exertion, drew Suwa's attention. At this moment, Kojiru and Ayako were ordered to retreat, giving a chance to assess Tokiyuki and see who truly held the power to thrive in chaos. Expecting an easy kill against the nearly defenseless Tokiyuki, the old brute was surprised as each of his strikes was effortlessly dodged. Tokiyuki not only saw through his moves, but seemed to enjoy the challenge, growing more excited as the battle progressed. His skills were not from training, but innate, born from a knack for escaping. Suwa noted that Tokiyuki was not cowardly, just loved to flee. It seemed he had wings on his back, always reveling in the thrill of escape. Before the Kamakura unrest, Suwa had seen this kind nature and thoughtfulness towards companions in Tokiyuki, just like any ordinary child. Yet on the battlefield, this child played gleefully like a monster. Serving such a lord must be endlessly entertaining, Kojiru and the others agreed. Once again, Kojiru and Ayako charged to assist Tokiyuki, for although he could dodge every attack, he struggled to strike back. Their task was to create openings for him. The old brute grew increasingly terrified. If the boy lived, he would forever be chased while escaping. Just then, the other two children struck, knocking his sword away and pushing him towards Tokiyuki. The old brute chased Tokiyuki unarmed, but Ayako kicked him from behind, causing him to pull out his sword from the ground. Just as he was about to strike Ayako, Kojiru threw a sword, knocking it away. The sword flew out and he fell. Now was the moment. Tokiyuki seized the opportunity, leaped forward, and with both hands, he brought his sword down heavily under the moonlight, aiming for the old brute's neck and decapitating him. The head rolled on the ground, just like the ball his brother played with that day. His brother said Tokiyuki would become a hero and encouraged him to keep going because he believed he could do it. After Tokiyuki decapitated his uncle with a single stroke, he fled towards the outskirts of Kamakura by moonlight with Suwa and others. Suwa asked Tokiyuki how he felt about his first battle experience. Tokiyuki said he felt nothing particular since he was just focused on escaping. When he came to his senses, the enemy's head was already before his eyes, thanks largely to his companions. Blushing, Tokiyuki thanked the three of them. However, Suwa mentioned that he also played a significant role. Despite being a lord who would be the enemy's primary target, he was on the battlefield, and his followers were reliable. With these two factors, the restoration of the Hojo family was imminent. Fired up by these words, Tokiyuki raised his sword towards the distant Kamakura and vowed, "I will return here and defeat the main culprit, Ashikaga." After his declaration, he threw his sword, which accidentally struck a wolf. Tokiyuki, momentarily looking cool, ended up fleeing in utter panic. The group escaped Kamakura with great difficulty and reached Suwa's territory. Here, Tokiyuki was supposed to thrive in a new environment, but immediately thought of escaping again and fell into a trap prepared by Suwa. Suwa had set this trap knowing Tokiyuki would try to escape. Suwa ominously told Tokiyuki that no matter where he ran, Suwa would know immediately since this was his domain, Suwa Grand Shrine. Tokiyuki's immediate task was to learn martial arts and military tactics. Unwilling, Tokiyuki tried to escape but stepped into another one of Suwa's traps. Shizuku came to comfort him, explaining her father's eccentric but well-meaning nature, then provided him with a ladder. As Tokiyuki climbed out, he saw Suwa apologizing to his daughter, but still couldn't trust him fully. Tokiyuki kept trying to escape every day, but Suwa didn't give up on him, telling the other children that Tokiyuki was inherently earnest and straightforward, but had been raised as a puppet leader without significant ambitions, hence did not see the point in serious study. It was Suwa's fault for not yet showing Tokiyuki that he had the power to help him achieve his goals. One day, during a heavy rain, Tokiyuki fled again, only to find Suwa on his escape route. Impatient, Tokiyuki declared that even if he didn't learn anything scholarly, he would act as he wished, content to just flee on the battlefield, even if his army was defeated. Suddenly serious, Suwa swore to the gods that they would never be defeated because he was the true deity. After saying this, Suwa lifted a bell to demonstrate his divine power. The raindrops in the air suddenly paused, then gathered with the movement of Suwa's hands. Tokiyuki, unable to resist, ran towards it. The rainwater formed streams, which then gathered into droplets and exploded in the sky, clearing the weather. Standing in the sunlight, Suwa appeared godlike, and with a high wave of his arm, the people below shouted in unison, their voices echoing through the heavens. Tokiyuki couldn't help but be stirred by the cheers of the people. These individuals were not only residents of Suwa's territory, but also his followers. They were known for their robust and indestructible solidarity, so Tokiyuki could be at ease, for he had a deity to rely on. Next, all Tokiyuki needed to do was develop the qualities of a hero so that he could collaborate with the divine as a hero himself. Tokiyuki was finally moved and, blushing, declared his intent to return to his studies. His expression was simply too adorable. Suwa, happy with the progress, embraced the young lord tightly, while Tokiyuki resisted, yet couldn't help but start to trust this man. Suwa, seeing his goal achieved, told his brothers that their task was completed. The people below immediately deflated, ready to collect their appearance fees, making Tokiyuki realize he had been tricked. Regardless of his struggles, Suwa lifted the young lord onto his shoulders, and the next moment, stepped into a trap. Before he knew it, Tokiyuki had grown accustomed to life there. Next, he needed to gather his own retainers, those who would willingly risk their lives to fight for him. Suwa had already prepared 3 such individuals for him. Kojiru, a peerless swordsman of their generation who could lead the troops in the future. Ayako, not only immensely strong but also talented, suitable as a female warrior serving her lord. And Shizuku, detail-oriented and skilled in various secret techniques, perfect to oversee all affairs. The 3 were about the same age as Tokiyuki. Growing up with their lord would cultivate tacit understanding and trust, enabling them to become closely knit in the future. However, Tokiyuki would have to discover and expand his retinue on his own thereafter. After getting to know each other, Kojiru asked Tokiyuki what he wanted to do next. Tokiyuki, after a moment's thought, suggested playing tag, but this was immediately vetoed since their lord was too good at escaping, making the game utterly predictable. The other 3's suggestions weren't any more practical, but then Ayako proposed going hunting. Tokiyuki was surprised, given they were from a shrine, that they could still take life. Shizuku explained that Suwa, also a god of hunting, didn't mind these activities. In fact, while they were discussing, Suwa had already started grilling delicious meat. In the forest, Shizuku was the first to spot a rabbit and tried to charm it with her arms, but the rabbit immediately ran away. Tokiyuki shot an arrow and hit it, but Kojiru, unsatisfied, stepped forward to cut down branches blocking the view and asked Tokiyuki to shoot again. Before Tokiyuki could take another shot, Ayako threw a large clod of earth, almost turning the rabbit into a mist of blood, but unfortunately missed. Just as the rabbit escaped again and the trio caught up, they saw a ferocious beast devour the rabbit entirely. This was the rumored man-eating giant demon. Witnessing this bloody scene, Tokiyuki was momentarily speechless. Yet, his enemy Ashikaga was far more ferocious than this beast. If he couldn't even slay this demon, how could he speak of revenge? At that moment, the ox demon charged fiercely at them. The group immediately scattered in all directions. Kojiru took the opportunity to fire an arrow, but it was deflected by the ox demon's tough hide. Seeing that the beast was about to charge again, Kojiru urgently called for everyone to run uphill, believing they were outmatched and should flee with their lord. However, Shizuku had climbed a tree at some point and pointed out that it wasn't just her and Ayako there. Lord Tokiyuki was also present. "Me? Fight the ox demon?" Tokiyuki exclaimed. Shizuku's plan was for Tokiyuki to act as bait to lure the ox demon under the pine trees on the other side. During this time, Kojiru and Ayako would move ahead. They quickly understood Shizuku's intent and left, leaving Tokiyuki behind. Fortunately, with his agility maxed out, the ox demon's fierce attacks couldn't touch him. Tokiyuki always managed to escape at the last moment, leading the beast toward the location Shizuku had mentioned. Kojiru and Ayako, who had already arrived, couldn't help but admire his dodging skills. Before the ox demon arrived, they prepared further. Ayako threw a large rock to sharpen another rock below. Kojiru also gauged the distance. Meanwhile, the ox demon finally reached the bottom. Hearing Kojiru's taunt, it abandoned Tokiyuki as its target and charged directly at him and Ayako. However, the two quickly retreated, and the ox demon crashed into the pine tree and fell off the cliff, impaling itself on the sharp rock below. After the exhilarating experience, the young boys and girls went to enjoy a hot spring. Tokiyuki's face turned red with comfort, and he gained a new appreciation for his subordinates' strengths. They planned to grill the ox demon for a feast. Shizuku gently caressed the body of the ox demon, speculating that it might be an ancient beast that had survived alone after losing all its family. She gently closed its eyes, lamenting that if it had had a companion, perhaps it wouldn't have turned to evil. While Tokiyuki was pondering her words, Kojiru suddenly suggested holding their next strategy meeting in the hot spring. Everyone supported the idea, and Tokiyuki stopped thinking about other matters. Why wear clothes in a hot spring? They also named their group, initially proposing the tail-tucking, oil-smearing, fleeing party, due to their lord's knack for escaping, but Tokiyuki vetoed it. After some discussion and fun, they settled on the fleeing young lord party, which Tokiyuki was very pleased with. They then prepared to barbecue, only to find that Suwa had already eaten all the meat, cheekily claiming he was purifying its soul with his divine stomach, which earned him a beating from the kids. Meanwhile, Ashikaga was beginning to suspect that Suwa was up to something.